Hello, and welcome to session 3, 0.3, which is our JavaScript review. You should have already submitted Do Now. If you have not submitted Do Now, please pause this video and complete it. We're going to go over it right now. So giving it 1 second to load up this pop code assignment. And as it's loading, let's make sure that we are reading the directions. Update the JavaScript so your name is in the username. How did this happen? So right now, the username is It's Code Nation. I want to update the JavaScript so it says Michael because that is my name. So I think I have to just change this right here, Michael. Look at that, it's all updated, okay? So what do we think the code is doing right here? Take a second to think about it. If you don't know, we'll talk about it during today's lesson, okay? So we are going to continue. Let's read the objective together. 1, 2, 3. Coders will use variables and operators to build an interactive website. Let's read the vocabulary. Variables, operators, let, string, number, declare, data types, and console. It's a lot of vocab. Okay. So we just did this assignment. We were able to change the username of the website. And the way we were able to do that is through variables. So usernames, locations, the number of likes and hashtags, all types of information are in an Instagram post if you've ever used Instagram before. So apps like Instagram store information like this in variables. If you don't know what a variable is, we're gonna go through it today, so don't worry. So what is a variable, okay? So a variable is it's like a container that holds information, okay? So in the instance of this cat GIF we have here, we have this container, and this container is holding the cat. So this container would be kind of like a variable. The stored information, in this case it would be a cat, will be called the value of that variable. And we use variables in JavaScript to manipulate data and apply data to different places. So we then use that stored information to make our websites, and they're a very, very powerful tool that every developer uses. All right, so in JavaScript, you have to declare a variable. And the way you declare a variable is using the keyword let, L-E-T, right? So we have the keyword let to declare the variable. That's how you start, that's how you make the box, right? Once you make the box, you have to give the box a name, and it won't work unless you do both of those things, all right? So we declare the variable using the keyword let, and then we give the variable a name, right? So you want to give the variable a sensible, descriptive name. So when somebody's looking at your code, they know exactly what that variable is supposed to hold or do, right? So here are some examples right here, right? So there are 2 limitations to creating variable names. One is that it can't start with a number, and then another is that it can't start with keywords. We know let is a keyword, and we'll learn more about keywords later and other keywords that exist in JavaScript. Right? So once you make the box using the keyword let and the variable name, in this case, the variable name is my box, you have to assign the variable a value, right? So in this case, we have assigned the value of 8 to my box with our variable. So now the value of this variable is 8. We can also reassign values to variables. So just because it's 8 now doesn't mean it needs to be 8 later, right? So through the process of our program that we write, that variable value can get changed depending on what we do to manipulate that data. So in this case, our variable value starts at 8 and then it ends up being 300 because we assign a different value to it, right? So if you'll notice, we've only written let once because you only have to create that box once. So let my box creates a variable called my box, and that's the only time you have to do that. and then we can use our program to manipulate the data in the box. So right now, my box is equal to 300. Okay. So there are multiple ways to declare a variable. So you'll notice on the left-hand side, we have let cake, and then cake equals lemon. So it's declared in 2 lines, or you can do it in 1 line. It's up to you. Just know that you can break it apart if you want to. All right. So notice anything interesting about the values of these 2 variables, right? A little different, all right? In case you remember from last year, there's different data types, all right? One of the data types that you should have learned is numbers. So these are numbers on the left. Another you should have learned are strings, all right? So numbers are numbers. They usually don't have any comments in JavaScript, so you just have to kind of write the number out. They could start with a plus or a minus to denote they're positive or negative, and they could include a decimal. Strings are characters surrounded by quotation marks, right? There can be empty strings, there can be a string of numbers, there can be a string of letters, it can be a string of spaces or punctuation, so that's what a string is. So take a second to think about these questions. What's the name of this variable? What's this variable's initial value? And is this variable hold a string or number at this point? Okay, so what did you come up with the name? I think the name is high score, right? With the initial value of the variable being 20. And here it seems that the value is actually a number, not a string, because I don't see any quotation marks. And that looks like a number to me, 20. So what will this page display? Take a second to think about it. So I see the keyword let, and that means a variable is being declared with a variable name of high score, and it's being set to the number 20 as the value. So here we're selecting the body using jQuery, and we're changing the text on the body to whatever the value stored in high score is, which would be 20. What about here? What's going to display on this page here? Take a second to think about it. So here we have a variable declared high score again, set equal to the number 20. And then high score is reassigned to be set to 25. So the value of high score is now 25. We are selecting the body again, and we're changing the text to a string of high score so we can see the quotation marks. So actually what will appear on the page is this exact high score. So H-I-G-H, capital S-C-O-R-E. It won't be 25 because we can see the quotation marks. That means it's a string, not a variable. Okay, here we change it up, and now you'll see the 25 there because there's no quotation marks around high score. That way we know this is the variable. The computer knows this is a variable. I'm going to look for the information stored in this variable and put it on the page as text. Okay, what about here? What happens here? So we've declared 2 variables, high score and new score. We've set them equal to 20 and 30 respectively. And then we've set high score equal to new score, right? So now we select the body and we change the text to high score. High score is equal to new score, so 30 should appear on the page. Okay, let's see, what's wrong with this? What's gonna happen here? Take a second to think about it. So we've declared a variable called mystery value, and we've attempted to assign it a value of the number 7. However, this is not going to work because of some capitalization issues. You'll see the V in mystery value is capitalized in the first line, and it's lowercase in the second line. So it's not going to work. The variable names have to be exactly the same. You have to be careful, as you know, in coding. All right. Here's a new concept, operators. Now, you've seen operators in probably math class, and you can use operators to do some basic arithmetic and manipulate variables and strings and numbers in JavaScript. So the four operators we're going to talk about today are addition, subtraction, division, and multiplication. All right, so operators behave just like we expect them to in math class. So here we have a variable called points equal to 15 and bonus equal to 3. So if you add points to bonus, you'll get 15 plus 3, which is 18. We have points minus bonus, 15 minus 3 equals 12. Points divided by bonus, 15 divided by 3 equals 5. Points multiplied by bonus, 15 times 3 is 45. Cool, got it. And then there's order operations. So let's say points is 5, bonus is 3, multiplier is 2. So points plus bonus times multiplier. So that should give us, so we have bonus, which is 3, times multiplier, which is 2, which gives us 6, plus 5, which will give us 11. Cool. We can use parentheses to emphasize which operator should go first, just like in math. So here we want to add points to bonus, which is 8, and then multiply it, which would give us 16. So that's how operators work on numbers. What about strings? So we have pen and cake. So word 1 plus word 2, that should give us pancake, one word. And then we have something called string interpolation, all right? So string interpolation, you all are familiar with concatenation, hopefully. If you're not, it's completely fine. String interpolation allows us to combine strings and variables to build HTML and JavaScript, all right? So we would select, here we select a paragraph tag and we are appending hello, the string, if you can see the quotation marks there. And here you see a $, curly bracket, or curly brace, and a variable, right? So that variable is going to pull in the information that's saved to that variable and apply it here. So we're going to say hello to whatever's stored in username. Right? The way string interpolation works is you're going to have to use backticks around the whole string and then the $ symbol and the curly brackets or curly brace around any variable. So here we have button, event handler clicks the button, or whoever clicks the button, we declare a variable called new item that takes the value of the input. We append to the class, any element of the class to do a list item tag. In that list item tag, there's a variable called new item that's getting pulled from input.val. We can append it to the page and the list item using string interpolation. So we see our backticks, which are located on the upper left-hand side under the escape symbol on your keyboard. We see our $. You know where the $sign is. You've used it a lot. We see our curly brace containing the variable name to access the information that's stored in that variable. All right. So we'll take a look at this example. So we have a click handler that is activated when somebody clicks the add a message button, and then when someone does that, it will append new message to the page and a paragraph tag. So here you see the variable is not used. This is just an element getting appended to the page using string interpolation. All right. Can we use operators to combine different types of data? Not really, right? So you don't want to subtract a string from a number, because what would that give you? So not in JavaScript. You don't want to do that in JavaScript, okay? One more hint, you may have seen this last year in your intro class, applying .val to an input returns a string. So in order to turn that string back to a number, if somebody inputs a number, you need to use a function called number. So to convert the value of your input back to a number when doing calculations, you'll need to do that. So in this case, we have a variable called user inputs that takes the value of an input. And so the user could input a number 10. If you log that out in the console, you'll see that number 10 is now a string. And so you'll just need to apply the function number. So you take a number, the function, your inputs, that user input variable name into the curly brace, or sorry, the parentheses, and that will give you a number. So you can use that to manipulate your calculations. Right? So we're gonna pause there, and we're gonna start the guided practice. Okay, it's time to work on our guided practice. So we're building an awesome treasure hunting game. You get the high score by clicking on all the treasures and none of the bombs. So our first task is to declare a score variable to keep track of the score. Now we're going to declare our score variable in our JavaScript pane. And we want to declare it outside the click handler so all of our click handlers have access to it. So we're going to use our keyword let, our variable name score, we're going to set it equal to 0, right? Because our score is going to start at 0. We want to subtract 1 point from the score variable when the bomb is clicked. All right, so we have this bomb class where all the bombs are. So when that's clicked, there's a few things that already happened. So the CSS, the background color changes red. It's a message that tells us that we found the bomb and we get its point subtracted. So now we want to add a part where it allows us to subtract a point from the score. So we have score equals score minus 1, right? So if you notice, I didn't have to say let again. I didn't have to declare the variable again. So we have a score, and every time this button is clicked, the score gets subtracted by 1, and it gets saved again to that score variable, right? You also want to update the text of the score element to the new score value, all right? So we're going to select that class of score using jQuery and update it with not score in quotation marks, because that'll give us this. Let's see what happens if we do that. See, treasure count score of 4. What we actually want is the variable name, okay? So always make sure you're putting the right thing. So if I click it now, -1, right? So that's the guided practice. So you're gonna work on the independent practice right now. Pause this video and work on that. And to complete a task, let me just read the task out for you. So you'll want to add 1 point to the score variable when the treasure is clicked, update the text of the score element to the new score value, and try to make the reset button work. Okay, so those are 3 things you'll be doing. So pause the video and do that. Okay, welcome back from your little break. We're gonna talk a little bit about what happens when you get stuck. So we've all gotten stuck because of errors or mistakes. It's part of the game, right? So maybe you feel like JavaScript's a little more confusing because things don't automatically appear on the page when you make mistakes. So you're trying to figure out, oh, what's wrong, all right? So that's where debugging comes into play. So debugging is just kind of reading the errors in your code and trying to figure out what they mean. Errors in your code mean you're trying to do something cool. And so they're like really a chance for us to learn something new, all right? So we make a mistake, we learn from it, and then we don't do it again, right? And maybe if we do it again, we'll figure it out eventually and know that why that error is still happening. So great coders, as you know, are problem solvers, and problem solvers are like detectives. So they gather clues, which are these errors, and use those clues to solve these mysteries, which is the bugs in our code. In pop code, you can easily see these errors because of this. It changes red, right? In other platforms, you'll see this red X, or you'll see a squiggly line that tells you there's something you should be keeping an eye on, right? You should know about the console, which is a tool it's an internal tool that's built into most browsers that helps you gather information about your code. Content that is output to the console will not be visible on the page, so users won't see it. You should have experienced this last year. It's okay if you haven't. So in pop code, you have this console that you can pull up from the bottom, right here. But in your browser, you can also use this tool. We've used it in the past, if you're using Chrome, going here, and the console is here, right? So back to this. Here's what you can do with it. All right, you can use console.log inside your main JavaScript file to print stuff to the console. So it's kind of like a scratch board, a test space for you. It won't appear and it won't appear on the screen. It won't affect your code. It's just a place for you to test out code straight into the console that isn't part of your main program. So when you use, here's a tip. So when you use console.log and you put a variable name in there, you want to kind of give a tip to yourself or a hint to yourself, okay, which variable is this actually? So if you have a bunch of numbers, you know which variable this is relating to, or a bunch of strings, you know which the variable is relating to. So you can have console.log, whatever text gives you the hint, maybe the variable name, and then you output the variable value. And that tells you what you're looking at. So let's do a little practice exercise here. Let's start with one pop code. All right. So we are going to open up the console, all right, and see what happens. So all this is commented out. Let's see what happens if we undo this. Okay. So we have 2, 6.2, and 100, right? So console.log 1 plus 1 gives us 2. Console.log 1.2 plus 5 gives us 6.2. Console.log 10 times 10 gives us 100. Okay. We also have this. So you can see how these operators work with numbers. You can see how they work with strings, right? So if you want to test out, oh, how will this appear on the page? If I'll actually put it on the page, you can use the console. So we have hi, hello, with the operator of the plus. And then we have 1, 2, 3. You can see 1, 2, 3 is spaced out here because in the string we have spaces, right? Here we have some variables used in the console, okay? So we have number of students that we've declared above here, which is equal to 10. All right, so it tells us number of students that we put here in the string, so we know which value this is aligned to. So number of students is 10. Number of slices is, we're doing some multiplication here with our 2 variable names, number of students and average number of slices, and we're getting 15, right? And then we're doing some more complex math with functions here with the last line to tell us how many pies we need, okay? So we're still using our variables and also using a function into the console. So the console is a really, really powerful tool. And here we're combining both our strings and variables to tell something else in the console, right? So, all right, forgot to remove the stars. Okay. And so here we can say, hello, 10, and we can see that we can combine a string and a number. And now we're trying to subtract a string and a number. Doesn't work out, all right? We get NaN, all right? Not a number. So that's the console in pop code. Let's try out this glitch activity. Okay, so here we have our glitch project. So glitch doesn't actually have accessible console that the way we use in Popcode. We have it. We're going to use it in a much more traditional way, which a lot of developers do. Is they'll go to the page, right, and they'll actually inspect the page and go to the console here, right? So you'll see some stuff already there. Don't worry too much about that. So if I uncomment out these code, right, you can see console's cleared and all that stuff that you saw before is gone. And you can see it's similar to Popcode, the results of these logs. Okay, so there, same thing. Cool. And we'll just do all of them just so it's clear. That's the exact same thing, same results. This is just a different way of doing this. And you can do this on any site you want. Just go to inspect and check out what's happening in the log console. Cool. All right, the moment you've all been waiting for. It is project time, right? So you're gonna put all the stuff that we've talked about today to good use to build a project on Age, all right? So I don't know about you, but I forget about how old I am all the time, maybe because I'm up there. So what you're gonna build for me, if not for you, is an app that tells the user's age based on the year they were born, all right? So here we have a sample. All right, so I'm gonna enter in my name, which is Michael. And my birth year, which is about 1921. And looks like I am 99 years old. I don't look it, I know, but I'm up there, I'm telling you. All right, so you're gonna create something just like that. You can see that you'll probably have to use some operators, probably have to use some variables to build this. And so make sure that you review the project plan. Let's walk through it really quickly. All right, so you're gonna make this mini project. User should be able to enter their birth year, and the app should have a way to store that birth year. Use that information as needed. You should be able to calculate age based on birth year. You should be able, as a user, to see the age on the page once that's calculated. And you want to make sure that it's all specific to the user. So then they should know that by maybe using their name. You have some stretch goals here. You have a wireframe built for you. Okay, you can feel free to update this as, actually you should build your app based on this wireframe, which is loading. And then you'll have some pseudocode here that'll guide you along the way, right? So this project plan is already completed for you. Just make sure that you review it and read it so you can work on your projects. So you'll fork your starter code, right? Go to GitHub, fork your starter code. You know how to do that already. And then make sure you read your project plan, and then you're off to the races, right? So the fork button is right here. Make sure you fork it. And then you are, make sure you read your starter code, make sure you read the README, right? And then you're off to the races. And you're making me a great app, right? Thank you so much for this app. Look forward to seeing it.